all I want is you.
Hi guys, welcome back to 100% Mags. So, of course, as you can see, I am joined today by a very special guest on the channel, Mark North, of course, coming from Talking Balls on YouTube and Unsung Sports Heroes as well on YouTube, and also a former staff member at One Football, of course. Used to work with Peter Silverstone, so of course we will, I'm sure, get a little bit about that on the preview today. Of course, with him being the commercial director at Newcastle United. But before we get into that, pleasure having you come on the channel, Mark, mate. You know, what's your thoughts on this game coming up and how your season's been going?
Yeah, thanks for having us, Carl. Appreciate it, mate. Always good to come on and talk football on the lunchtime.
No worries.
Yeah, I think West Ham's season, it's a tough one for me because we're seventh. I don't know how we're seventh. Like, we've not had a particularly great season. We're not enjoying the football, particularly at West Ham. Obviously, there's a lot of noise out people.
Yeah.
I've been on that bandwagon myself because he doesn't really play the right way. I like the way Eddie Howe plays. He plays attacking football. That's kind of what we want to see. But then obviously we're kind of higher up. So it's a chicken and egg thing. It's like, what do you want? Do you want results or do you want entertainment? For me, as a football purist, a football fan, I like to see good football. I don't really care about defensive football. I just find that boring. It's not my style.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, I'm kind of along the same lines as you. I like to see, you know, entertaining football. I don't agree to this whole tiki-taka, you know, the way that, like, we see Man City play. I don't agree to that kind of football. It's, you know, it wins you trophies, don't get us wrong, but it's not very entertaining, you know, for to watch. It is pretty boring to watch. It does send you to sleep at times. Yeah, I think, to be honest, you've been doing really well in the season so far. You know, at the moment, you're currently ahead of us by, was it a point ahead or 4 points ahead or so? 2
points at the moment. But as an example, your goal difference is plus 11 and ours is minus 4. Yeah. So, you know, again, I think you get to watch better style of football. And me growing up as a kid, I'm in my 40s now. I grew up when it was Aspinall, Beardsley, Shearer, you know, like, what a team. You know, that with those Liverpool, Newcastle games, we had Colin Moore and all that, those ding-dong games where it was always 4-3. For me, they were just like the outside of West Ham, they were the games I always wanted to watch because just two attacking teams just going toe-to-toe. Brilliant stuff. But, yeah, we are above you. Obviously, that could all change Saturday. I hope it doesn't from our point of view, but it's such an even game. I really can't call this one.
Yeah, it is going to be an even game. I mean, down at your ground, you know, earlier on in the season, you took the lead 8 minutes into the game through Surchek. Then it was Isak that scored a double. Then, of course, that 89th minute, you know, equalising goal by Kudus. I mean, talk me through that, you know. What was your thoughts on that one? I personally was livid because I thought we should have come away from that game with the 3 points in the bag. But, I mean, you know, talk about that game, that goal, you know, Kudus.
Yeah, I mean, Kudus is a special player. To be honest, it blows my mind how Erik ten Hag can manage Kudus and Anthony, go to Man U and take Anthony and not Kudus, because Kudus is just a revelation. He's class. He's kind of that Asprilla type, I think, when you look back at Newcastle. He can just run at people and dominate. So yeah, he's always going to get goals. I think the game itself was very much like our season. It's last minute. You know, we've snatched points where probably we didn't deserve them, and I think we've done that a lot. Now you can say Moyes, great manager for that, because we probably picked up 10 points that we played worse than the other team, and it just seems to happen really. So, but yeah, Souček's another one as well. He's kind of not a great footballer, but he gets goals. Like, you watch him play, and he's like Bambi on ice. He just doesn't look like a pro, but he pops up. So he's another one that divides the fan base, to be honest. He's a bit of a strange one, but Isak's quality.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, that Souček, he's a really good player. I've seen quite a few of West Ham's games, and he always seems to, get in there, get in amongst it, which is what you want to see, from a player, especially somebody that's playing in the position that he is. You want to see a player getting in there, not being afraid to get in on tackles as well. That's something that, Souček does quite well, I've noticed from watching the games. Kudos was, a really good player as well. Like I say, I was absolutely livid when that goal went in on the 89th minute of all times as well. We should have come away from there with the 3 points, definitely. But it is what it is. You can't change the result of that game now, but we do get a chance to get something in this game at the weekend. I think David Moyes has done a pretty decent job with what he's had at his disposal at West Ham. I think, just winning the Conference League last season, that was absolutely phenomenal for you guys, because you were fighting a relegation battle. To win something in Europe, when you're fighting a relegation battle, is pretty impressive. Even if it is the Conference League, I know it doesn't get much credit, but at the end of the day, it's still Europe. It's
a tough one. When I talk about that Conference League, and I've said it on my channel, and I get slated for this for West Ham fans, and it'd be interesting to get your take actually. If Newcastle are there. Sorry, I'm not sure if you were in a European competition last year. I can't remember where you finished, but
we're just Champions League this season.
Yeah, that do, isn't it? So. Like the Conference League for me, it's a bit of a Mickey Mouse competition. I think I don't like it at all. And I know we won it, but it saved Moyes' job when, as you say, we're in a relegation battle. We weren't doing well. But when you just look at that, our squad was worth 100 million more than the rest of the teams we played put together.
Yeah.
And when I was looking through some of the attendances of who we were playing, like Accrington Stanley had higher attendances than some of those teams. So for me, it's like, if you don't win it, it's a massive failure because it's set up for English teams just to go in and spank it every year. So for me, I wasn't excited as others. I'll put it like that. I'd rather win the Carling Cup than that all day long. It's
fair point. Fair point. At least you won it before Tottenham won it anyway, because Tottenham won it and they were crap. So
definitely not that.
Right. So let's get your thoughts on, how Newcastle's played this season.
Yeah, I mean, again, every time I watch them, I think they're decent. There's bits of inconsistencies. With Isak, you've got a really quality striker who's going to get goals all day long, the likes of Gordon. You've got, funny enough, I had a Newcastle fan of mine the other day who was saying about Dan Burns and not being a left back. He said he's more of a left back than he is. Like him, he's played in some different positions. So, yeah, I think there's still a few players away from consistently being top six. I think, but I don't think it's a million miles away. But I guess my concern really is because I've again had a Spurs fan on. They said he really wants to sign Isak. He said that's the striker out of everyone in the Prem he thinks Tottenham can get. So we're probably going to have players sniffing around them. We're going to have it with Paqueta and Kudos as well. So it's just holding on to those players, isn't it? And then trying to build around them.
Yeah, it's true. There's a lot I've noticed of late that there's a lot of news articles out there saying that Isak could be going to Arsenal, could be going to this team, could be going to that team. Bruno could be going to this team or that team. I've noticed there is a lot of articles around, but what us Newcastle fans need to be thinking about is, these players have come to Newcastle when we were in a point where it was really bad for the team. We were in a relegation zone when Kieran Trippier joined the team. We were pretty much still in the relegation zone or around that when Bruno joined the team. So, for them to make their move from European teams to come to a team like us when we were in that situation, I do have, the confidence that they will stick around. I mean, looking at what Bruno has done since being at Newcastle, he just absolutely loves the area. He thrives in this area. So I'm not too worried about, the likes of Bruno moving away from the team, or Trippier moving away from the team. Isak, I don't think he'll move away neither, to be honest. He knows that, here he's the number one. He's going to be, something massive here. If he goes off to an Arsenal or Man City, he might not get that same chance as what he'll get at Newcastle. I'm sure it'll be the same, if he was playing for the likes of West Ham as well, he'd be the star of the show. At clubs like West Ham or Aston Villa, teams like that. My thoughts on our season so far, I feel we've done pretty well, to be honest, considering the amount of injuries that we've had this season. We've had quite a few, probably one of the worst hit teams for that. I mean, what's your thoughts, on the injuries that Newcastle's had this season?
Yeah, definitely. From what I see, it's, I mean, people like, as a good example there, Callum Wilson. Callum Wilson is a player that I kind of always wanted at West Ham, which I thought really would suit us, but he just cannot stay fit. But when he always scores against us. I hope he's not playing on the weekend. I don't know if he's injured. I hope he is, but
he's still injured.
No, well, that does us a favour because he always scores against West Ham. But people like Trippier's 33, but an absolute, still a quality player. I'm not sure who else you've been injured, but it does seem to be like there's not as a consistent squad. But yeah, Bruno is one of those actually. What a quality player! I forgot to mention him. So you've definitely got some real kind of gems in a core squad and a good manager in Eddie Howe as well. So I think he can get a tune out of people as well.
Yeah, you've took the words out of your mouth on that one, to be honest. What's your thoughts on, Eddie Howe as a manager, in Newcastle? And would you take him at West Ham if you had the chance?
Yeah, probably would. Yeah, I think I'd take Graham Potter. To be honest, I just want to see a bit more attacking. The problem we have, maybe the same for you, if something like Trippier's out, is that you can't rely on the defence. Like, the defence isn't the strongest part of the team, so why set up defensively? And that's something that we do, and then just hit people on the counter because we've got so much pace in attack. But then the times when you let them off the leash, as same with your team, like they're good attacking players, so just let them go, and that's really entertaining. Eddie Howe would do that more than David Moyes. Eddie Howe's probably, though, primed because we're not blessed with good English managers. If Southgate messes it up and he gets the call to manage England, it's a tough call to turn down for anyone. I think it's a real honour, and it pays well, which helps.
True.
I will say one other thing as well. I think with Eddie is that I guess when you come into a Newcastle, I think he come in there just before you got the investment. I think he was there just before, wasn't he?
He came in a little bit after we got the takeover.
Yeah. So to come in and think, do you know what? Now I've actually got the pot of gold. It's every manager's dream. It's football manager in cheat mode, isn't it? You can come in and buy whoever you want, and then FFP just goes, nah, no, you can't. It must be so frustrating for a manager because Newcastle have the money to go and be the next City, but you just can't seem to go and spend it. I find this all crazy.
Yeah, exactly. It's very annoying because that is it. It's the FFP, PSR, whatever you want to call it. It just holds back. Newcastle holds back a lot of teams in the Premier League, not just Newcastle. It's holding back the likes of Villa. It's holding back your team. West Ham. It's holding back other teams as well. The likes of Forest. They've spent big and now they're getting points deductions. Everton spent big and they're getting points deductions, all because of a vehicle that they've brought in, to stop the debt-ridden teams from, getting into trouble and allowing them to spend as much as they want. And to be honest, it was brought in by probably one of the most corrupt men in sport, in Michel Platini, who is now in prison. So should we really still have FFP, PSR, whatever you want to call it, in the game? That is the question, to be honest. On everybody's lips.
Yeah, it needs looking at 100%. Obviously, that'd be amazing for you guys. I think Chelsea are next. I think Chelsea have already admitted that they're guilty of a charge. So they'll kind of be docked points. And I just think, where's it gonna stop? Leicester, obviously, of course, are now fighting it as well. I'm trying to duck the rules because they're not in the Prem. It's becoming a lawyer's dream. I'd say but it's not a football dream. It's another thing. They've introduced, like VAR, which just takes away from us talking about football, and you just end up talking about all the crap that goes on behind the scenes, and it's like, oh man, just Super League and all this rubbish, to focus on the football. But yeah, I'm not a fan of it. I don't think it might affect us because we have spent quite big. But even if we get a points deduction, we're high up enough. It won't really bother us. If it comes next year, it might be a problem.
Yeah, true. That's where it does become the problem, really, with the whole Europe. As soon as you get into that, Champions League, Europa League areas, just any Europe in general, it becomes a problem because then you've got to abide by the Premier League's version of the PSR and then the UEFA version of their version of FFP. Gladfully, next season, when this season is over, of course, it will be in line with UEFA's. So if you're in Europe, it's much better, because then you're going to be along the same lines. You're going to be able to, match the books up at least. So it's not going to be as bad as what it is at the moment.
As I say, it's different in every league as well. So, I mean, I interviewed somebody from a La Liga club, commercial director there, and he was saying that you're not allowed to make you're not allowed to make a loss. So it's much tighter control. So if you just say, okay, look, you're not allowed to make a loss, that's a very black and white line. But at the moment, it's like, oh, you can, you can't. You can create longer contracts which fix something over a longer term, like Chelsea did. And there's always a way around it, isn't it? That's the problem.
Yeah, very true. Let's talk a little bit about, of course, when you used to work at One Football. Then, of course, we'll talk a little bit about the match towards the end of the preview. So talk us through, you said in the comments, of course, that you used to work with Peter Silverstone. Us Newcastle United fans know him, of course, as our commercial director. He was the commercial director in Arsenal. So talk a little bit about, of course, Peter Silverstone and what you did with One Football whilst you worked there.
Yes, I mean, I can't say too much about it. Obviously, confidentiality clause, but he was a good guy. He's a really good guy, Peter. And I didn't have a huge amount of interaction with him, so yeah, we took him from Arsenal into One Football. Various things happened at One Football. I'll let you go and kind of Google what happened with the Web3 thing, and then I think he just kind of saw a better opportunity at Newcastle, and rightly so. I think working at a company that has just had that amount of investment has got huge opportunities to invest in the infrastructure of the club, to then go and sell it. I mean, it's a bit of a dream job, so I don't really blame him for doing it. So I only had kind of limited interaction. I did speak to him on occasions, but my role is kind of head of talent, so I was kind of doing the recruitment for One Football, so hiring across the business, so sort of finding people for his team, but not too much day to day. So he was, it wasn't sort of based locally to me.
That's good, mate. No problem. So when you did interact with him, what kind of person was he like? Was he like a, straightforward person? He knew what he wanted, or was he sort of like on the fence sort of kind of person?
No, he was quite direct. He kind of knew what he wanted. He was, he's a really good. Like I said, I don't know what he's done at Newcastle, to be honest, since. I'd be interested to get your take on this, but at One Football, he kind of, he had his vision, knew what he wanted to do. Probably didn't quite get the backing internally, maybe that he thought he would. I mean, you come from a club like Arsenal where you have regular money to do lots of things, and I probably couldn't quite do that there. But no, he was a straight talker, really nice guy. I mean, you'd imagine, I guess, him being in that commercial space anyway, he's keeping. He's good at dealing with people. So I thought he was a nice guy. So nothing bad to say about Pete from my point of view.
Yeah, he seems like a pretty nice, straightforward guy. I mean, what he's done so far, like to touch on your question there, he's done some pretty good stuff so far with Newcastle. I mean, he's the man responsible for bringing Adidas back to Newcastle United. He's also done other stuff like with all the sponsors that we've brought in, the likes of Salah, of course, for the front of shirt sponsor. In Post, who's a brand new sponsor that's with the club. Of course, some more sponsorships as well, like sleeve sponsors. Basically, it's just trying to get as much commercial revenue into the team as possible for the FFP. We'll see, with Man City, they've got about 46 different sponsorships, which accounts to about 70% of their income, so that's kind of the route. I'm guessing that Peter Silverstone's going to try and go down with Newcastle, try and bring that sort of investment into the team. But yeah, it's nice to hear a little bit about Peter Silverstone from your mate and what you did at One Football as well. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people in the chat, that'll be very interested in hearing about that. One Football's a massive brand. I know on many occasions I've sent an email to them to try and see if they'll sponsor my channel, but no avail on that one, unfortunately. I think I've got to be a bit higher up.
Yeah, keep tapping away. They do have an influencer marketing team there, so it's always worth reaching out.
I think I've got to be a bit higher up for that one. We'll see how it happens as well. Right, so let's move on to, of course, talk about the match at the weekend. Now, of course, like we were saying before we went live, to return to Premier League action after the international break. Of course, two not so great England games, shall we say. A loss to Brazil and a very late winner goal, of course, or was it equaliser? I'm not quite sure now. Against the last team.
Against Belgium. It was a lucky one. I'm not a Southgate fan, and I won't jump on them too much because I think we probably could have won both games. The first one should have been a draw against Brazil, but Brazil were no mugs, and we had enough chances to win the Belgian game. We just didn't take them. So I'd rather get those games out of the way in friendlies and not in tournaments.
Yeah, fully agree, mate. Like I say, I'm not the biggest fan of him, to be honest, Nave. I've said it on many occasions. I call him Snoozegate because his football's that boring. It is nice to see that he has included a few other faces in there instead of the usual faces that we see in the England setup. We have had the chance at least this time to see Anthony Gordon get his first call up to the England squad, which I fully agree with. The lad's been fantastic since coming to Newcastle. What's your thoughts on Anthony Gordon so far, mate?
Well, we had a solid, again, on my channel, we did like an England player review, and I think Anthony Gordon did really well, so myself, a Man U fan and Grays Athletic fan, funny enough. But yeah, we all agreed that it was a great debut. I think he'd done really well. He didn't look out of place. He didn't look like Luke's done, basically, or Chilwell, who had nightmares. He done well. It's a tough one to get into the England midfield. That's the problem.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, Bowen come on and did well. You've got Maddison, Rashford, it's good wide players. Not Rashford, maybe, but you've got some other good wide players. So, yeah, it's a tough one. I think that's going to be the toughest area for Southgate when it comes to picking who gets on that plane.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. It is going to be a very tough one. One of the players that I thought he should have maybe included is Lewis Maley. I mean, he's been fantastic since coming into the Newcastle setup, but no inclusion in the England squad. Instead, going with Kobbie Mainoo. Yeah,
Kobbie Mainoo is probably the fashionable choice at the moment. And I will say, I think he played it awesome. I think he deserved his man of the match game award against Belgium.
Yeah.
The other one you mentioned there, sorry, his name's gone out of my head. He was under 21s though, wasn't he? Did he get injured?
Who was sorry?
Who was the other person? The Newcastle youth player.
Lewis Maley.
Lewis Maley. Did he get injured?
Yeah, he got a back injury for the under 20s.
Yeah. See, that's always the problem, isn't it? When you have someone who's doing well and just kind of, establishing themselves, and a slightly meaningless game just puts them out. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, he's been fantastic for us this season, playing in the Champions League against PSG, Borussia Dortmund. He's been really on a rise. It is a bit of a, upsetting moment to see the poor lad have to, go out with an injury. It looks like it's going to be several weeks as well. So he won't be available for the game of the weekend, which I'm sure West Ham fans will be happy about that because he's a very good engine in the midfield when he does play. And he does, get stuck into players as well. But It is what it is. We'll move on to talk about, of course, the match at the weekend. Like I say, we'll return to Premier League action. And, of course, it is a 12:30 kickoff. It's going to be on TNT Sport for this one. And it's in James's Park where, of course, West Ham haven't had the best of runs, I don't believe. The last time it was a draw, I believe it's St James's when we played just. But, you know, talk us through your thoughts on going into this game, mate. Like, what's your thoughts playing up at St James's Park?
Yeah, it's always, I mean, this sounds like commentator speak or player speak when you say it's always a tough place to go, but it really is, because I think Newcastle are one of those teams that can play really good football. If they turn up, they can beat anyone, like a Brighton. I think those sort of teams, Newcastle bigger than Brighton, I'm not saying that, but I think they're a really tricky team that do play good football. And if they're on song, they can kind of tear you apart. I'd probably take a draw in this one. Kudos is doubtful, actually. So that would be a miss because he withdrew from the Ghana squad. Yeah. And then we've got Addison Alvarez has got a 2-game ban as well. So if we have to bring in, I'll put it like this: if we bring in Calvin Phillips, I think we'll lose. I can't stand him. I think the worst loan signing I think I've seen at West Ham.
He's pretty bad.
It's unbelievable, like how much he's deteriorated. I loved him at Leeds, but yeah, he's terrible. So James Ward-Prowse isn't particularly on form. I mean, Bowen's quality, Paqueta, good. So again, I think we've both got enough firepower to hurt each other. Our defence, I think, is one of our weakest points. I don't know. What would you say is the weakest area of your team?
At the moment, I'd say the weakest area in the team would be the goalkeeping defence at the minute. We've got, of course, Botman. That's just went out for a long-term injury. He's going to be out like 6 months minimum because he's have surgery on a knee for an ACL injury that he's picked up, of course, this season. Dubravka's not the strongest of goalkeepers. He used to be really good, but since Nicky Pope came to Newcastle, he's kind of dropped out. I don't think his head's in the game anymore. He has picked up a little bit of performance of late, but hopefully, that does kind of continue in this game against you guys. But for me, the goalkeeping area would be the weakest point at the moment because we need Nicky Pope back. He's a fantastic goalkeeper,
Yeah, last season, wasn't he? Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and then again, I think if he was, I don't think we're blessed in the goalkeeper department for England as well, so I definitely think he would have an inclusion there. So, the bad thing, I guess, for us on that point then, if goalkeeper's your weakest, Kudos is the one that shoots a lot from distance for us. If he's injured, then we just don't really have anyone. It's only going to be Bowen. You can mark Bowen out of the game. That's not as easy said than done. But if you can do that, like Antonio's kind of had a bit of a revival recently, actually, as well. Yeah. So the last 2 or 3 games, he has come on and done well. It's a really tough one to call. I just can't call this one either way. I think there'll be goals in it. That's what I'll say. I don't think it will be 0-0. So either a 2-2 or a 1-0 for me.
Yeah, I'd probably say it's going to be quite an even game as well, mate, to be honest. I mean, both of the teams have got enough there still to cause a threat for each other. We are pushing for Europe. You are pushing for Europe as well. So it is going to be a pretty even game. I do believe that. It's the injuries for Newcastle this season that is the concerning thing for me. I mean, you have had a few injuries as well, but not to the extent that Newcastle's had this season. We've had so many injuries in very key areas of the team as well. So we're all running a little bit on a shoestring on a few areas. I do think we do have enough. Don't get us wrong. I do think we've got enough in the tank to be able to get something out of the game. If I had to pick a score prediction for the game, I'd probably say Newcastle to come away with maybe a 1-0 win, or if it does happen, I have a bit more than that in it. Say maybe a 2-1 win against West Ham. I think it's going to be pretty close, but Newcastle probably coming out on top winners in the game, just because of the of course, home field advantage that we've got, St James's Park, the crowd, the atmosphere. It's always something that benefits with hugely in games.
Yeah, I've never been to St James's Park, but you know what? It's one of those grounds I'd love to go to because the atmosphere is probably hasn't changed in quite a while. And obviously, we're in a new stadium, so it is different from Upton Park. So yeah, that does make a difference. I think places like St James's Park, Anfield, Everton at the moment, there's some of them just in the grounds that have been there and just retained that atmosphere to make it a tough place to go. So yeah, I definitely think that would have an advantage for Newcastle.
Yeah, I fully agree with you, mate. I mean, it's a fantastic atmosphere at St James's, one of the best grounds around, obviously, we're going to need to update it soon because there's a lot of Newcastle fans being turned away, can't get in the ground because the capacity just isn't big enough, to fill the demand now for tickets. And even in the past, when Newcastle were, playing in Europe and at the top of the Premier League area, in the European spots, it was a high demand for season tickets, and that demand's back now. That Ashley's now left Newcastle United, and he's gone. His shadow's no longer hanging over the ground or the team anymore. It's a new era at Newcastle United, and I'm so happy to see, that we are moving in the right direction. This season has been a little bit of a worrying one with the injuries, but we are still in with a chance of getting European football. So, even seeing the injuries, it's still good that we're in with a chance of getting that European football if we can make it. It's been great having you come on the channel, mate, to talk about the game, of course, against yourselves on Saturday, 12:30 kickoff live on TNT Sport. Do you want to give a shout out to where people can find you, your socials and all that, mate?
Yeah, thank you, mate. Yeah, if you're on my channel, Talking Balls, we just talk across all teams across the Premier League. So, you won't be just loyal to Carl or anyone else. Just if you want to just get involved, even if it's to come on and take a piss out of if we have a Sunderland fan on or something, you're more than welcome. Just come and have a laugh.
I'll keep that in mind, mate.
Right, buddy.
So that's it, guys. That has been the preview for the game coming up against West Ham Saturday, 12:30 kickoff, live on TNT Sport. It's been a pleasure having Mark come on today to talk about, of course, the game against West Ham and, of course, a little bit about his time at One Football, which obviously everybody knows as a massive global brand in the football scene. And, of course, may the best team win at the weekend, Mark.
Indeed. Good luck, but not too much good luck.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers, mate.
See you all next time, and hoy the lads.